Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Dimes, a college basketball podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Jamie Shaw. Jamie, how are you doing this morning?
Matthew, man, things are going great this morning. Starting to get a little crisp in the air. Temperatures are awesome outside right now here in the Carolinas. So, yeah, man, it's happening. We're right in the middle of visit season. We got the college basketball season approaching, right in the swing. I won all of my fantasy games this past weekend, so we're riding a high right now.
I was going to say, I'm going to stop asking you how you're doing because your weather situation is so much better than mine. We're just not even going to bring it up anymore.
We're just floating in the 70s right now, man. It's
high
nice.
today in Baton Rouge, 89.
Ooh,
89. So, yes,
ooh,
it's not quite what you have over there,
that's a
unfortunately.
big number.
Yes, it is. But like you said, things are starting to pick up. I mean, dude, we are less than a month and a half away from the basketball season at this point. I'm very, very excited. A lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about some most improved teams. Going to talk about some breakout players that we're watching for. But first, there were two pretty significant 2026 commitments that we got to touch on. And I want to talk Ethan Harris to Iowa first, 6'8", power forward, number 65 player on the Rivals rankings. What are your thoughts on Iowa getting Ethan Harris?
Ethan Harris was kind of a late developer, somebody who had a name about himself out of the state of Washington, but really jumped onto the scene in July, playing on the Puma Pro 16 circuit. He was with the Select Basketball Organization. I don't think it was until really July that Iowa started to press for him, got him in to schedule a visit, offered him on the visit, and then kind of built momentum from there. Ben McCollum, new head coach there, obviously. He's got kind of a hybrid forward situation, a skilled guy that plays the four spot. And that fits Ethan to a team. 6'8". He's very skilled, able to shoot the ball. He's able to facilitate, be an offensive fulcrum in the half court type stuff, and just plays with a physicality. Both his parents played Division I basketball at Portland. His sister's currently, I think, at Montana State playing basketball. So basketball kind of runs in his bloods, and he saw the need. And he saw the fit. I'm told that, talking with him, he really saw the fit with that hybrid forward position that Ben McCullum employs there, and how it kind of fits in with what he does as a prospect as well.
Yeah, he's definitely an interesting one. And I mean, Iowa, like you said, the hybrid forward spot, it's especially with what they could have as far as shooting the basketball and the versatility they have. It's interesting. The next commitment I want to talk about is Calic House committing to Xavier, 6'3" point guard, the number 125 player on the Rivals rankings, plays at Arizona Compass Prep, obviously a huge prep school there. What do you know about House? And, obviously what is Xavier getting?
Well, what you love about Caleb House is kind of where he made his bones at was the physicality that he brings at the point of attack. Somebody who's able to penetrate the defense, get 2 feet into the paint, collapse the defense, but also guard at the point of attack as well. He's got the bloodlines. His dad, Eddie, NBA, multiple year NBA player, Eddie House. And then his brother, kind of the tie in as to Xavier, played for Patino, at his previous stop, Jalen House. Really also made his bones on the defensive end of the floor, guarding at the point of attack. Caleb kind of follows that mantra. He's a ball in hand type of guy, an initiator primarily on offense. Xavier was able to kind of pull strings of previous relationships by somebody that's a noted Rivals 150 point guard with Caleb House. He had a big summer this year, showing that he can kind of set the table while also still scoring. The jump shots coming around a little bit more. He's able to play efficiently, ball in hand, to get stuff in play. Obviously, as you know, winning in March comes with the guard play. It's always good to have a guard that you trust in the fold. Patino was able to get Caleb House, a guard that he has familiarity with the family, known for a long time, able to get him in the fold early and to kind of build the class, build what he's got around what he gets with Caleb House.
Sounds like a prototypical Patino guard, if you ask me. A Big
For
East
sure.
guard, for
Yeah,
sure.
toughness and physicality at the point of attack, and he's got it.
Yeah. All right. Not as many 2026 commits as last podcast. Where we had, I think, 5 or 6 there, but two pretty big ones. Obviously, playing high major basketball here. We'll see both of them next year. Let's jump to where we want to focus a lot of this podcast on, and that is the most improved teams from year to year. Now, we did talk about coaching changes. We talked about Will Wade. We talked about Jai Lucas. We talked about some other programs that are going to be revamped to a degree. So I kind of excluded them from my selections in terms of what teams are going to be most improved, because obviously you expect those teams to be improved with new coaches. But in terms of returning coaches, coaches that are going into some of them year 3, year 4, most improved teams. Do you want to go first?
Sure.
All right.
So I kind of looked at this. Obviously, we haven't seen these guys play yet, so there's
Correct.
still kind of an unknown aspect
Yeah.
there. However, both of the teams that I chose, both the teams that I was looking at, I was kind of dissecting the national landscape, are teams that will have very big spotlights on them because of their coaching situations as well. The first one I started off with UNC. Obviously, they had a run, a number 1 seed 2 years ago. Last year, they barely snuck into the NCAA tournament. And then they just revamped their entire roster. Only one player coming back from the previous year was Seth Trimble, but they hit the portal hard. They went overseas, and they came from the high school ranks. It's going to be very interesting to see kind of how this team is employed by Hubert Davis, because there's a whole lot of you can go very multiple with kind of the lineups they have. They have a lot of depth and they have a lot of pieces within it. Kind of, you look at the returner, Seth Trimble, a tough physical player at the point of attack, a defensive-minded guy who's able to get downhill in straight lines, and uses athleticism and length. Going to be his final year in college, and it's kind of his team this year. It's going to be very interesting to see the step that he's able to take. After averaging almost 12 points per game this past year in a role, can he take a focal point and be a guy on the team? They also bring in 5-star McDonald's All-American Caleb Wilson. Caleb is a very intriguing prospect at 6'10". Where he really stood out to me was on the defensive side of the ball. There's a whole lot of versatility that he brings on the defensive side, able to slide his feet, able to move, loose hips, turn, switch, rim protection, all that type of stuff. Kind of exactly what the versatility you need on the defensive end of the floor at the highest levels of basketball coming to UNC, but also on the offensive end of the floor. He's got some skill. He's got some ball skills, the ability to self-create. And what he has with the college level spacing is going to be very intriguing. And you got Luka Bogovic, the 6'5" guard coming from overseas, another ball in hand guy. He's great with the pick and roll to really create some offense going forward, playing at a fast pace and self-processing with the ball in his hand. Kyan Evans from Colorado State coming in, 44.6% from three is going to be very intriguing with him. He will probably be at the point guard. Not a super dynamic guy in a traditional sense of being able to collapse the defense and kick and spray the ball. But what he brings is shooting. And if he can take care of the basketball, he had 3.1 assists per game this past year. If he can take care of possessions, if he's able to get them in the sets, relocate, and space the floor off of that, there could be a lot to be done there with what they have at these other positions. And then you have Henry Vassar coming in from Arizona, big 7-footer, very skilled. What he looks like in a full-time 30 minutes per game type of situation is intriguing. But not only that, you have depth. So, maybe he's not going to have to play a full 30 minutes. Maybe they're going to be able to play against matchups. Maybe they're going to go super big or small, or keep the starters fresh. You have James Brown, Zayden High, and you brought in Jaron Stevenson from Alabama, who's got starting experience. All of them lengthy and versatile type players. And then at the guard spots, you have Jonathan Powell and Jaden Young, both who have starting experience. Jaden Young has 10 starts already in the ACC in his career. And then you got 27 starts from Jonathan Powell last year as a freshman at West Virginia. Derek Dixon coming in as well. On paper, this UNC team is much improved. They were able to go out and utilize their resources to recruit in an entirely new roster. That roster brings versatility. That roster brings a lot of different looks and matchups that you're able to present. You can react with matchups, but you can also kind of be on the offensive and aggressive with matchups that you like and see. There's shooting there, and there's length. It'll be very interesting to see because, in the truest sense of much improved teams, we'll see what UNC looks like this next upcoming year as they get on the court and everything. But I think when it comes to roster development, when it comes to putting together a roster, I think this UNC team is very much improved over what they had this past season.
Yeah, last season was disappointing, obviously by North Carolina standards, but honestly, even by just being a perennial contender type, you barely make the tournament, 13-7 in the ACC. 31st in KenPom. So we're talking about a team that's not top 30 by the end of the year. Like you said, Seth Trimble coming back is interesting. The guard spots, clearly, you go from Ian Jackson to, like you said, more stability. I think that's kind of what they're looking for. You might not get the highs and the lows that you had last year. So, yeah, I agree. I think North Carolina is definitely a team that we'll be looking for to see. All right, can you? I'm not gonna say win the ACC, but can you be in that top three again? Top two, top three team in the ACC. Obviously, a top 20 team in the country is where North Carolina should always be. So,
Yeah.
we'll
No,
see.
absolutely. I think they have the roster. I think they have the players. I think they have the potential for the style to be there
Yeah.
with this roster they're able to put together.
Now I'm gonna go with a team that I'm not even sure is great, but it's a team that went 13-18 last year, 4-16 in the Big Ten, and that's Washington. And I just really like the guards they have. I mean, you talk about a plethora of talent that they have at the guard spots. They return Zoom Diallo, and I think with that they get Wesley Yates back from USC. He was Washington to USC, back to Washington, and I think you start with that. And I saw Wesley Yates in high school go against Trey Johnson in Texas. And I was like, this guy really has something. And I know at the time LSU was in on him heavy. He goes to Washington. He ends up having a really strong year at USC last year, 14 points per game, 44% from three. Like, that's the guy that I'm excited to see now that he's back in Washington. Feet are he knows where he's at. He's comfortable. I expect him to have a really strong scoring season. And then you just go down the roster of scorers and guards that they have. Desmond Cloud from USC, Rodney Rice from Maryland, Kamari Peterson, from ETSU, 20 points per game. Like, you just have all these guards that can put the ball in the hole, can create for themselves, create for others. And then JJ Mandaquit, the number 52 prospect in Rivals, freshman who has played. I've seen him play the AAU circuit. He was on the FIBA U19 World Cup team. Like, there are so many guards here we're talking about. And I'm curious to see, because this is all on paper right now, I'm curious to see how it works out. I'm curious to see what combinations they play together. I'm curious to see what the front court looks like. But at the very least, this should be a team that's not 104th in KenPom. Like, this should be a team that's not 118th in offensive rating on KenPom. Like, they should be a top 50 offense in the country. They should be a team that's pushing to get into the tournament this year and pushing to have a winning record, I think, in the Big Ten. So, yeah, Danny Sprinkle at Washington, 4-16 in the conference last year. I expect them to have a much, much better record this year.
Another player to watch with them too is Hans Steinbeck coming over from Germany. Freshman, he'll be. There's going to be some pretty. He will create some pretty big expectations for himself in the front court there. Soft hands, able to finish, and maybe self-create off a couple dribbles and stuff as well. Kamari Peterson might be the X factor for that team. I'm just going to be very curious as to how he's able to step up and play the point guard role, because you have all those guys, as you said, they can self-create on the wing. The Rodney Rices, the Desmond Claudes of the world, the Wesley Yates of the world, everything. Can they get that steadying factor? Allow those guys to kind of play off ball and then combo guard type roles. Can they get the steadying factor from Kamari, who's transferring up from East Tennessee State? I am also fascinated with that roster because, as you mentioned, they accumulated talent.
Yep, for sure. All right, who you got?
My second team, again, going back to the thing, I'm just looking at approved rosters here. Arkansas. I think Arkansas did a really good job kind of improving their roster as to what they have year over year. They return DJ Wagner, Carter Knox, Trevon Brazile to the lineup. Trevon Brazile is a jumping jack. He flies around the court, rim protection and all that. Has kind of just teased with his immense upside so far to this point as well. But he's good for at least one high flying, just unbelievable play each game that he plays in. Carter Knox seemed to take a step in games that he started this past year. He kind of went half and half, maybe a third and two-thirds of the game starting. And the games that he started, though, almost 10 points per game, almost 50% from the field that he had. He's a 6'6" wing, younger brother of Kevin Knox, able to really aggressively play in the passing lanes, get out in transition, and score getting downhill. I would not be surprised if he takes another step in his game to continue to become the high sought after prospect that he was coming out of high school. And then you have DJ Wagner. I think that we've all seen that DJ Wagner is not the top 5 player, top 10 type player that we had anticipated coming out of high school, the McDonald's All American. But what he has kind of settled into is a player who can set the tone for a team. You know, he can start every game. He can play 30 plus minutes a night. He can guard at the point of attack, really competitive guarding at the point of attack, and he can get his team into sets. What he brings on the offensive end, if he can tighten up the efficiency just a little bit, continue along that path, there's a lot there. And then you add in Darius Acuff as well. It's going to be very interesting to see the dynamic between Darius Acuff and DJ Wagner, being that both guys are ball in hand type players. However, Acuff has shown that he can create offense. He can go get buckets. He can manufacture for his team, mainly through himself in the half court. So there will be scoring opportunities there if they can tighten up the efficiency with it. That'll be very interesting to see how those two play again with each other. You have Malik Thomas kind of coming off the bench, another McDonald's All-American 5-star recruit who's able to create offense and do all that with himself. And you brought in Malik Ewan up front, Florida State. He averaged like 14 and 7 a game last year. One of the better talent-wise, one of the best centers that was in the portal, transfer portal, big physical player out of Georgia. And then Billy Richmond coming off the bench. You have Nick Pringle, who's won a lot of basketball games previous as well, coming off the bench, big man from South Carolina. So this team has pieces. I think it has depth, and I'm kind of intrigued to see how the talent that they have fits all together, because he went back to kind of 2 combo guards, length on the wings, and then 2 bigs. Kind of a lineup where he's been at his best. Now, obviously, a lot of times Calipari's had lottery pick talent. Not entirely sure that there's lottery pick talent right now in this upcoming draft on this roster, but what he has is the more traditional sense of a combo guards, wing, and 2 bigs in the lineup. Seems to get a little bit back toward his comfort zone. He has some roster continuity year over year. Main guys, ball in hand guys that have been in his system moving forward. And there's some length and athleticism here too. And I think these guys, with kind of the lumpy season it was last year, might have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder as well. Same with Calipari. Wanted to get back to show why he's in the Hall of Fame. So I'm very intrigued by this Arkansas team. I think this roster has improved over what it was last year. I'm very interested to see what they put on the floor.
Yeah, obviously last year ended 8-10 in conference play. We're just really inconsistent offensively. Kind of hung their head on the defense side of the ball in a lot of ways, and so they definitely have a lot more, I think, scoring punch and a lot of versatility here going into the year. I'm excited to see it. All right, my second team, another team that really struggled in theory. Providence with Kim English last year was 6-14 in conference play, 12-20 overall. I look at the roster and I look at the additions. All right, Jason Edwards coming over from Vanderbilt. I covered him at North Texas all these years ago, which was 3 years ago. I remember when he was making the jump up from junior college to North Texas, and I interviewed him. And you could tell that this guy was just like a maniac in the best way. He just loved basketball, was watching practice tape every day, trying to get better. And so then at North Texas, he lights it up, goes to Vanderbilt, lights it up, and now he is at Providence. And I think he's just going to have an awesome year. Small scoring guard. I think he raises the floor for every team he's on, which we saw with Vanderbilt. And I expect him to do the same thing over there. 17 points per game last year. An awesome scorer. So I like that for Vanderbilt right away. And then you get to Jameer Jones, number 40 prospect on Rivals, a wing who I think will immediately help this team. Their athleticism. He just does a lot of the dirty work on the court, and I think, and I have, from a prospect, I haven't seen him, since in person. So I can't say that he hasn't gotten better, but the jump shot was not where it wanted to be at the time. And even still, he was able to impact the game every other way. And I'm interested to see how he kind of comes around. So you have him. They had Jalen Sellers, who didn't play last year, but in 2024 at UCF averaged 16 points per game. Duncan Powell from Georgia Tech, 12 points per game on 36% shooting. And then they returned Corey Floyd, who started 25 games for them last year, 9 points per game, who's a redshirt senior. So I just look at this team and the talent level and I think the floor should be much higher for this Providence team. I'm not saying the ceiling is going to be super high, but I mean, they were 96th in Ken Palm last year. There's no way that this roster ends up being outside of the top like 60 this time. I would just be really hard pressed if they're not at least a 500 team in the Big East. If not, I think probably pushing like 11-9, 12-8 potentially. So Kim English, Providence, I think they're going to be a much improved team.
Yeah, no, it's big year for Providence, big year for Kim English over there, and he went to work in the portal.
All right. Do you have one more?
Nope.
All right. I will give a shout out here to LSU here since I am here in Baton Rouge. Matt McMahon and this team went 3-15 last year. Jalen Reed got injured the 7th game of the season. They were just a mess once that happened. Really didn't have point guard play, didn't have much presence inside, couldn't compete in the SEC, which was incredible. I think LSU has a team that I don't want to overstep here, but it should be a team that is on the bubble, I think, early and often. I think they're going to be in that kind of range of when you look at teams that in the bracketology section where it's always who's, last 4 in, first 4 out, that section. I think that's where LSU should be this year because I think they spent in the portal. They spent a lot of money in the portal. They went and got DJ Thomas from UNLV, who averaged 15 and 5. Marquel Sutton, the Summit League Player of the Year from Omaha. They went and got Ron Zipper from Israel, who I think is going to be a real player for them on the wing. So I just think LSU is in my honorable mention here. 3-15 in conference play last year. I'd be surprised if they weren't at least, if they don't bump that up by 3 or 4, get to 7 wins, maybe 8 wins in conference play. We saw all the teams that won 8 games in conference play last year in the SEC make the tournament. So does that happen this year? I'm not sure, but I couldn't let us go without, giving an LSU shout out here because maybe they might be listening. So,
well, I tell you, I talked to Matt McMahon a few days ago, and he was raving about D-Dan Thomas, about what he is coming in and the excitement that he has, and obviously, just like you just said, he didn't want to get too ahead of himself and all that, but there's a little bit of a quiet confidence that he has with what he's seeing so far at this point in time with the team.
It's just the SEC so good every year. It's like if you drop LSU in the ACC, and at the ACC, obviously they wouldn't be a top tier team, but they'd be in that second tier, somewhere in there, second, third tier. Pushing to have a winning record there. It's just in the SEC. You just mentioned Arkansas, who went 8-10 last year. They're going to be a lot better. I mean, you go down the list of these teams, and it is a grind out there. So we'll see. Give them a shout out though. Shout out to LSU and McMahon and them. All right, breakout players. We don't have to spend too long. I got 2, and we can dive into them. I'm gonna go first just because how excited I am to watch this guy play basketball. Christian Anderson at Texas Tech.
He was one of mine as well.
Before even I'll let you talk because I actually have an extra one that I can throw in there. But dude, even before I feel like everyone knew about him because I hosted that Texas basketball podcast, we're like, should they just start Christian Anderson at the point guard spot? And this was, I don't even know when, maybe December or something. You could just see the flashes. And lo and behold, I think as the year went on, he got better, obviously. And then the World Cup, he was absolutely phenomenal. So what do you got on Christian Anderson?
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of set up for him to come up and have an incredible year this year. They beefed up the front court. They lost a lot in their back court. He's going to have a lot of opportunity. McCaslin loves fearless lead guards who are able to self-create. Christian Anderson's that in spades. He showed that, this past year in spurts, and he showed that again, as you said, in the World Cup. 17 points, 6.6 assists per game, ball in hand guy, able to create stuff for his team, 35.5% from 3 on over 7 attempts per game. He's able to create opportunities for his team. And we talked about it last week, kind of creating opportunities for your team could be for yourself in the more non-traditional way that you want or for a team. So he's able to self-create for both, obviously getting the 17 points, 6.6 assists. But I think Texas Tech obviously did a great job beefing up their front court. Very excited to see JT Toppin, what he's able to do this year. I think Watts coming in is going to be a huge add that not many people are talking about. Then you got Bam Boy and Josiah Mosley. I think that,
Mhm.
young guys that I don't think we've seen the best of who they are. Just yet. But in that backcourt, the ball's going to be in Christian Anderson's hands. He's going to have a lot of opportunity, and his mentality, his fearlessness, as I mentioned before, I think is going to be able to step in and really kind of, they have high expectations this year.
Yeah.
I think Christian Anderson is going to be somebody that's able to come in, and if they do live up to those expectations, it's going to be because Christian Anderson took a major step forward, and kind of led them there.
Yeah. If I know JT Toppin is going to score a lot, and they have, like you said, the front court beefed up, but like if I'm setting the over under for Christian Anderson's average points this year, what is it, like 14 and a half, 15? Like he averaged 10 and a half last year, which is crazy to think about. Um, like it might be somewhere in like 15 range. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he got north of that, but I just think there is JT Toppin is going to be the focal point, which he should be. He's incredible. But Christian Anderson he will get his shots up. That's for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those two kind of work out. And then you bring in Watts as well, and
Watts, yeah.
kind of how everything works out between those guys. Because Christian Anderson is um, his eyes are firmly planted at the rim a
Yes,
lot
they
of times when he has the ball in his hands. So it'll be interesting to see how the offense is run and what the flow of it all looks like and everything. But I think there's a real step to be taken there. And I think, yes, I think 14 and a half is a very good number. I can also very real see a scenario where he surpasses that pretty handily.
Yeah, I could see it as well. I was try again. I'm trying not to over exude, the confidence I have in him. All right, I'm gonna stay in the Big 12 here. I'm gonna go Obi Ogbim for Baylor, a senior shooting guard transferring from Wyoming who averaged 17 and a half points last year on 44% from three. But when you watch him play, and when Baylor signed him, I went and watched his stuff a while ago, and he's like it's not even the scoring that's the first thing that jumps out. It's the activity level, it's the athleticism, it's the defensive potential. And then you add in the shooting, and I think that's what gives him versatility to be an off-ball player at times, and then also take things into his own hands. But I just love players with that activity. When you can move the way he moves at, I think 6'3", and can also get up and almost put his head at the rim. I mean, that is an exciting player for Baylor, and we could talk about Baylor another time, but this is a rebuild year for him. Not a rebuild in terms of they're going to be bad, but rebuild in terms of they don't have any returning players, and he reshaped the roster completely. And Agbim to me is a guy who I look at and be like, all right, he's going to be like a cornerstone piece for this Baylor team.
No, for sure. I think I'm just very fascinated to see what this Baylor team looks like. There's kind of a lot of there's new faces, a lot of pop up guys they got out of the portal. Um, a really good freshman. I'm just very interested to see kind of what the rotations and what this Baylor team looks like.
For sure. All right.
The next one for me is solo ball at UConn. I think that UConn, coming off of back-to-back national championships, definitely 100% was not a letdown year this past year, but, they didn't make it to the national championship game and all that type of stuff this past season. He was aggressive in the transfer portal. Hurley was, and I think that he did a very good job of building a team around what solo ball kind of brings to the table as an electric scorer. He averaged 14 a game last year on 41% from three. In Big East play, he moved that up to pushing 16 points per game while keeping the 41% from three efficiency that he had. He's a lefty scorer. The electric ability of his scoring nature is going to be very interesting because, you add in these pieces around him with a lot of shooting. You add in a point guard to where solo ball is not going to necessarily have to self-create what he's doing, but Silas Demery coming in, he's going to be able to guard the opposing team's best perimeter player while also getting UConn into their sets. So there could be an efficiency uptick that solo ball sees within his shot opportunities that he has. You also have Alex Caravan, a very good passer, somebody who can also shoot the ball. Terrace Reed
Mm-hmm.
down on their block as well. We'll see what they do at the three with Jalen coming in and taking a step forward as well. But they're shooting around solo ball. There's going to be spacing on the floor. He's not going to be asked to do quite necessarily as much when it comes to self creation, when it comes to getting the shot opportunities with the players that he has. So I'm excited to see an efficiency uptick with him when it comes to, because I think he was just 43 or so percent from the field while shooting 41% from three. That spacing is going to bring more clean looks. More clean looks are going to bring more opportunity for efficiency and all that as well. Tighten that up a little bit, get that scoring percentage up some. I think there's a step to be taken there for solo ball, making possibly push for All-American type situation if UConn has the year that is expected of UConn to have this season.
Yeah. My last one, I'm actually going to make it two because it's two role players, and I'm not going to spend too long on them because honestly, I think a lot of this is projecting. A lot of it is a question mark. First is Sumpto Cyril for Georgia, who is an incredible athlete. I mean, just an awesome, physical presence there. As a freshman at Georgia, came off the bench 14 minutes per game, 4 points, 4 boards, 1.5 blocks. He's someone that I think Georgia kind of needs to take a step forward, and I expect him to, potentially double his minutes, maybe, let's just say get over 20, 22 minutes per game. And as a result, I think his impact grows even more. If he can just block shots and run to the rim and rebound, I think he's going to be a huge piece for Georgia this year. So kind of an under the radar pick there, but that's Sumpto Cyril.
He's very hard to match up with. I mean, it's just really hard that activity, that athleticism, and that sheer size and strength. Very difficult to match up with.
Yeah. And the last one, Cooper Koch at Iowa. Now, I might have a soft spot because I was so impressed by him as a prospect in terms of his shooting, and Indiana Elite, that team with Flory Badunga and that whole team that just seemingly never lost on the Adidas circuit that year. But as a freshman, played 10 games, 43% from three, 4.6 points. He entered the portal and then returned to Iowa, and I think that it's a great choice for him. He's the only returner they got back this year, obviously with the coaching change and everything. But I could see him. I'm not sure exactly what his role is going to be, but I know he can shoot the lights out, and I know he is. I think he's honestly athletic enough to get some credit there. That he's not just a standstill shooting four. I think he can do more on the court. I'm excited to see him this year with Iowa.
He fits that kind of hybrid role that we talked about earlier that Ethan
Yep.
Harris kind of fits in. He's that hybrid kind of four-man hybrid forward that Ben McCollum talked about liking and is going to employ within his system. The two other guys that I had, you kind of went into the deep cuts, mine a little bit more on the forefront.
Yeah.
Morez Johnson, I believe, at Michigan.
Good.
I'm very eager to see the year that he has. There's a physicality that he brings. I wrote it when he was coming out of high school. He was quite possibly the best rebounding big in that class. Obviously, U19 team this past summer with USA basketball. Just a real physical presence that he brings to the court, athleticism, and really rebounds the basketball. So he's going to be a force there. I'm eager to see kind of what he does with Michigan. And then also Otega Oweh. Really eager to see the year that Otega Oweh has. Last year, he was the leading scorer for Kentucky. So this might be like, what are you talking about, breakout player and all that type of stuff. But now he's had a year to be the guy. He knows what the expectations are. He knows what it's like to be at the top of the scouting report for the opposing team now. He's had the offseason to kind of develop his game a little bit, get the jump shot a little bit tighter, develop a little bit more self-creation, and figure out his spots within Pope's offense. There's going to be spacing on the floor. There's going to be depth around him. But I think all of the focus is going to be on Otega Oweh on the offensive end of the floor. I think he's up to the par. I think he's up to task to be able to kind of take that step forward as the lead guy. But again, Kentucky's going to have a ton of expectations this season. Mm-hmm. I believe for them to live up to those expectations, to go where they want to go as a team to reach their goals, Otega Oweh is going to have to take that step and kind of, I don't want to say lead them there, but he's going to have to kind of be the focal point of the team to get to the, where they want to end up being.
Yeah, I think Oweh definitely needs to take that next step because honestly, like you said, people are like, oh, well, he was really good last year, 16 points per game. Cool. I mean, he would have gone to the draft if everything was perfect and everything here, perfectly round out game and everything. There was nothing left to complete here. He comes back, and I think this is the year where, all right, you take that stuff that we've seen so many players take from their junior year to senior year, they're going into the last year of college basketball. Like, we see it all the time. And then it's like, all right, now you're a first round draft pick. All right, can Otega-Oweh be that for Kentucky? All right.
Yeah, I'm going to be very interested to see kind of how it goes. I think Oweh's got a chance to take another step forward there and kind of become a folk legend in Kentucky lore.
Yeah, I almost included Merez Johnson in mine as well. Fun player, super fun player. All right, that's all we got for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be back. We should have an interview with a former national championship head coach coming on the channel soon, so stay tuned for that. For Jamie Shaw, I'm Matthew Brune, and we will talk to y'all later.